Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach David Bartke here. Today is Sunday, June the 3rd, 2018, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Your weekend daily dose your weekend dose of happy. That's what it is. I always get confused on the weekend because I'm used to saying your daily dose of happy during the week. But, on the weekend I have to switch it around. But that's okay because it's the weekend. We get to relax, right? We get to feel good. So, David, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm a little tired, but it's for a good reason. I actually did a holistic expo today,
Wow.
and I was one of the vendors, promoting my law of attraction coaching, and I'm gonna consider it a win because it was great. I actually did get a few new clients, and
Really? Wow.
yeah, I did a
Fantastic.
bunch of free mini sessions, so I'll probably hear from a few other people. And it was great. And there's always other interesting vendors there as well. There's all kinds of a variety of different types of healers and different types of coaches and things. So it's always very interesting.
So what kind of expo? What kind of expo was this? I mean, was it like New Age or what was it?
Well, yeah, it's this particular one. The lady who runs it, there was a fundraiser, and she does holistic expos. So at the fundraiser, there was this big ballroom, and all the vendors in there were some type of self-improvement related or health related or, things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so like the lady next to me was very interesting. She does past life regression with people.
Oh.
And that was it. And I was asking her, I mean, I've heard of past life regression, but I was asking her, well, what is that, how does that help someone? So, they remember whatever about a past life. So she was explaining to me that, well, once someone remembers something, then it kind of helps them put pieces together in this lifetime. So, I mean, I haven't done it, but I know that people, a lot of people find it helpful. So I don't know if you've heard about that or not. But
I have actually. In fact, I met two women who were friends of my sister. And they became friends with her because my sister did research and wrote a play about the relationship between Thomas Jefferson and one of his slaves, Sally Hemings, which was a great big controversy and scandal, really, at the time. But my sister found these two women, and the two women, it turned out, through their past life regressions, discovered that they were close relatives of Thomas Jefferson. One was his sister, and I can't remember what the other one was. But yeah, it was quite a thing. So, I mean, I'm not quite sure what to make of it myself, but I know they were very interesting to talk to because they themselves were both psychic as well. And one of them, her name was Anne, projected some stuff for myself and my wife that we're still not quite sure what to think of some of it, because some of the things she projected were like raising our eyebrows, like, really? Wow. And I won't say just yet what they are, other than to say that they haven't yet come to pass. So I don't know for sure exactly how accurate they are or anything. But
well, this particular lady was saying, like, for example, like, say someone has a fear of flying, and in this lifetime they never experienced anything that would cause them to have that, but they just have this like really bad fear of flying. And she was saying that, maybe in a different life they went down in a plane crash, or they were in a war and their plane got shot down, and that could apparently that could like transfer over into this lifetime, and that's why they have a fear of flying. And apparently, if someone were like that and she took them through a past life regression, and they discovered that, somehow knowing that would make the fear kind of dissipate, now. So I don't know, it sounded interesting, but she was interesting to talk to. And there was another vendor there who had this mat that you lay on, and there were certain crystals in the mat that kind of do something positive for your immune system. So people were trying to, were testing that out. And a massage therapist. So it was interesting. It was a good day.
And I guess there must have been quite a few people coming through if you had some leads come off of it.
Oh yeah, there were. I would think there were about 500-600 people.
Well, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't talk to everybody.
No, of course not.
but no, it's interesting because I thought, well, because it was a fun. Sometimes when I do a holistic expo, then I know, a lot of people know about the law of attraction, and I'm going to get a lot of people. But today I wasn't sure because it was like more of a fundraiser, and we were just all there, kind of,
right.
With our different things that we do.
Right.
So right. I just put out the intention. Anybody who can use my services, who wants to use law of attraction to help themselves, that's who I want to attract.
Sure.
And that's exactly what happened. It was really
great.
Cool.
Yeah, very, very
good.
And
then a lady was there with her friends, and I did a mini session with her, and she was like, "Oh my God, I have to have all my friends come over to you as well." So next thing I know, like a few other people were waiting to do the mini sessions. It was good. It was very nice. Very good.
Excellent. Well,
what about you? Did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, I mean, we needed to relax this weekend because Louise's gardening business, this is like the hottest part of the season. And by hottest, I don't mean temperature, although certainly it gets hot. I mean in terms of, the volume of things that have to be done. There's a big ramp up that happens starting in April and peaking in June. And that ramp up is very, very challenging to manage. And what made it even more challenging is that the woman she appointed as her assistant manager got injured and has been out of commission for the last couple of weeks. So Louise had to step in and start doing her job in addition to what she does for herself. So she's been really stressed, and I've been trying to help her, remove the stress as much as possible and remind her to focus on positives and all that kind of thing. So it's been a challenging week. And a good week in many ways. I mean, the business itself is booming, but just surviving it is the hard part. When you're short staff and you need to have the full staff at the most important part of the year. So we're doing more hiring. We're bringing more people on board, but we're going to get through it. And we still have the goal of getting to the point where she doesn't have anything to do. And I'm not sure we'll ever get there because she likes doing parts of it. What we're really trying to do is to get the stress out, get rid of all the stuff that, is hard to deal with on a regular basis, the stuff she doesn't love doing, and, find other people to do that kind of thing. And we're getting there. We've made a lot of progress. So it's all very hopeful, but still, when the weekend comes around, and plus it's not like, we stop working on the weekend. She and I are still working. I mean, she's, doing her planning and a variety of things and, handing off bookkeeping to me. I'm doing bookkeeping. It's, so it goes on, but at least on the weekend we can, like today we went off. You've often asked about the open houses. We went to see a couple of open houses, not because we loved the houses particularly, just to get out of the house, just to get away from it all. And it was great for that. It was just a nice way to get out. The weather here was gorgeous. I think it was probably similar there in New Jersey. But it was just a beautiful day, and it was just a nice way to get outside. So, yeah, I mean, good things happened this weekend. Yeah, it was what we needed.
Yes. Yeah, one interesting thing I thought that you would find interesting is there was a lady who did a free session today, and she was like, "Oh, my God, I have to get my daughter. She's only 20, but I would love you to kind of tell her about the law of attraction because at her age, it would be great if she could hear about it and start, even just getting like a basic idea. So,
sure,
as she gets older, she'll be more interested." So I said, "That's fine. Yes, please get her." So I did like a double session meeting with her and her daughter, and it was great because her daughter was at least interested in it. And I just explained some of the basics and gave her a few things to think about, and I thought that was great. That someone who's young could find out about it and at least kind of hear about the basics so they could use it, as they grow older, because they're so young, they have so much time to find out more about it, and if it resonates with them, to get into it more. And I just thought that was great that her mom did that.
That is fantastic, and I certainly agree. I mean, the more young people learn about this, the better, because I wish I had known this stuff when I was that age or younger.
Yeah. So I thought she was very lucky that her mom cared that much to
That's right.
to do that for her. And,
that is.
And I even said that when when we were kind of wrapping it up. I said, just think about what we talked about today, and just you're kind of lucky because you're so young. You use this to your advantage, and see how you feel about it now that you know some things about it. So it was just great.
Oh, I think all the co-hosts would agree. I know especially Joel would, because he works a lot with young people and teaches them about the law of attraction. Of course, the young people he's working with are usually kids from broken backgrounds and foster care and all that kind of stuff, who just had really, really raw deals handed to them. And so, he uses what he understands about it to help them get through their difficult stuff and turn their lives around, with some amazing results, as I'm sure you know.
Yes.
So, but he'd completely agree with you that he'd agree with us that it's so great when kids that age pick it up. In fact, he likes to point out how when you're a kid, it's actually, no matter how bad your stuff has been that you've been through, it's so much easier to turn things around because you don't have the sheer volume of negative experience that you have when you're an older adult. So there's just less stuff to kind of leave behind and, turn your mind around on. And he loves the way kids can just turn around practically on a dime. He and I have, talked about that a lot during the podcast. Just amazing how quickly, kids will latch onto it, get it, and start applying it instantly. I mean, he had one of his personal success stories with a kid included in the book that we just put out. And anybody who hasn't read the book yet, by all means, check it out. It's available at Amazon. It's called Your Daily Dose of Happy, Real Success Stories of the Law of Attraction. But just look at your Daily Dose of Happy. You'll find it that way. But his story in there is called Marcus. That's not the kid's real name. But I recommend anybody reading that story, because if you hear what that kid went through and then how quickly that kid turned things around, it will make you feel good no matter what your own situation is. It just, you read that story and you just feel good inside.
Yes. So,
and you asked about what's been going on this week. Another thing going on this week is during the podcasts, I'd been announcing that I want to get the second book worked on. Wendy is going to play a significant role in trying to continue to promote the first book, and I'm going to be already starting to reach out, trying to get a second book going, because my goal now is actually to do like a series of books, kind of like Chicken Soup for the Soul did. In fact,
great.
I'd like to get it to the point where I have enough material to work with that I can put out a book a month, so like a book of 30 stories every month, and basically turn it into a series that way. Now, is there a book coming out next month? No, I don't have the stories yet. But I put out there on the podcast that I'm looking for some. And then today, actually, I reached out on Facebook. I found some people who had briefly posted about some stories where they'd been successful. And I reached out to them, and I've already got 2 people interested in interviewing for the next book. So I've already started it. And as soon as I've got myself 30 stories, that book's going to get published.
Absolutely. Why not? Yes.
I'd like to be known as the go-to guy for anyone who wants a look at success stories with the law of attraction. They can always look at my books. That's my goal.
Yeah, that's right. And what about any food, high vibration foods?
Oh, well, Louise made her fried chicken tonight, and her fried chicken is delicious.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, wow. She's one of the best in the world. Oh, it was fried chicken, mashed potato, asparagus, a sort of a baked asparagus with onion and garlic, and I don't know all the stuff that she puts on it, but it's just real tasty. And a little cranberry sauce.
Sounds really good.
It was really good, very, very good. And we had some really delicious ice cream earlier, which
What flavor?
Oh, it was double chocolate. It was actually double chocolate chip, now that I mention it. Yeah, double chocolate chip.
Ah,
and it's
sounds good.
There are many people who may know the brand. The brand of ice cream is called Graeter's. It's a dairy in Ohio that is very famous. So famous that Oprah Winfrey has Graeter's ice cream flown in especially to her on an irregular basis. So that's how much it's delicious. It's absolutely delicious. Because
well, you must have your favorite flavor flown in to you as well.
Yeah, well, we don't have it flown in. Fortunately, we found out that one of the stores locally carried it, and the price is exorbitant, but we figure, hey, it's Graeter's, you gotta go for it. So, yeah, every once in a while we splurge, not very often, but every once in a while.
That sounds
How about you?
very appealing.
To use your phrase, any high vibration foods this week?
I would say today at the expo, one of the booths was a bakery.
Oh.
And, but yeah, believe it or not, everything was gluten-free and, all the good stuff to be free of.
Makes sense for a holistic fur.
Yeah, they had these little samples out, and they had these, they call them paleo brownies.
Okay.
And they kind of looked like egg-shaped balls, kind of with coconut on the outside. And I took a bite into one, and it was divine. It was just like it was better than it looked. Like it kind of looked like, well, I thought, well, it looks okay, before you bit into it. But then when you bit into it, there's a really yummy, like kind of almost a little bit soft brownie underneath the coconut.
Okay.
And it was just really good. I'm like, wow, that's really good.
Very nice.
That was definitely vibration-raising food, that's for sure. Of course, a dessert again.
Oh, yes, of course.
But, oh, well.
Hey, we know you like your desserts.
Yes. I mean, I didn't have any, but yesterday I went to a birthday party at a restaurant, and the restaurant, because it was my friend's birthday, they brought him out a very large banana split.
Ooh,
and we're talking like big with tons of homemade whipped cream and all different kinds of ice cream. And I think it looked like they had put some caramel sauce on top or something. I was just like, wow, that was a visually vibration raising food.
I have to say that's the kind of thing where I am impressed whenever I hear about the homemade whipped cream. Not that homemade whipped cream is terribly difficult, but just that most people don't serve it. It's so much better. It's better than that plastic stuff for sure. And yet that's what you're used to seeing out there, right? So when you have the real thing on almost anything is just divine. It's delicious.
Isn't it? It makes such a nice difference. And you can tell. You can tell when it's real. It's like fluffier and just tastes. Oh God.
All you have to do is just put a little dab on your tongue. You can tell the difference from that. You don't need any more than that.
Yeah. No, it's so good.
Yep.
So good. Oh, God. I love when we talk about food.
I know you do. You get so psyched every time. It's really something.
So what are we going to read about today?
You have a very happy relationship with food. I'm glad to hear that.
Yes. Yes. Food and I are friends.
And our friends, right. Yeah, we're continuing our exploration of The Astonishing Power of Emotions. Let Your Feelings Be Your Guide by Esther and Jerry Hicks. And we've been spending a little time now in part 2, which is a collection of examples that illustrate what they talked about in part 1. And this book is noteworthy because part 1 is really where they expose and discuss in great detail their metaphor of paddling a boat in a stream as a way of understanding how to use and how to connect with inner being using the law of attraction. The general gist of it being, if you are trying hard and working hard, you're basically paddling upstream. If you're just letting go and letting stuff happen, you're floating downstream. And that simple analogy, as simple as that sounds, it becomes incredibly complicated when you try to apply it in 100 different ways in life. So that's why they have part 2, where they lay out a whole bunch of examples of people raising objections and questions and concerns, like, well, okay, yeah, but how do I apply it in this situation? And where does it work in that situation? I can't seem to make this work, and so on and so forth. So we're working through those examples, and we're up to example 10, which ties in very nicely with your experience at the fair because it's entitled, I Am a Teenager.
Yes, I thought about that actually. Like, oh, okay.
Actually, I guess she was 20, so she's no longer a teenager, but nevertheless.
But she's young.
Yeah, young people, teenagers, I mean, we've all been there, and we know what it's like being a teenager, and you figured a lot of it out. Some of it you're still figuring out. A lot of it's confusing. A lot of stuff that goes on just kind of like makes your head spin. And
were you one of those teenagers who thought you knew it all? You know, they have that, like, they don't realize they don't know it all, but they think they know it all.
I don't think I ever really felt that way. I mean, I felt like I knew a lot, but I don't think I really ever felt like I knew it all. In fact, I was pretty sure I didn't know it all. In fact, I was pretty sure there was a whole lot I didn't know at all because well, first of all, we didn't have an internet. I mean, when you have an internet, now you have much more reason to think you know it all because it's all right at your fingertips, right? You can just, Google it. There it is. Bang.
I know. We missed out, which may not be a bad thing.
I don't know. I haven't figured that part out yet. But nevertheless, no, I can't say I really felt. I mean, did you? Did you feel like you were know-it-all?
I didn't feel like I just had a strong sense of eventually maybe I would.
Eventually, maybe you would.
I knew it all. But I was curious to find out whatever that may be.
I do know that each step of the way, from elementary school up until now, I kept learning new things and thinking, now I've got a better handle on it. And then something would come along and make me believe, nope, I don't have a better handle on it. And then, now I've got a better handle on it. Oh, nope, I still don't have it. So it was one learning experience after another.
Yes.
Often hour to hour rather than day to day or week to week. In fact, this past week, actually, I started on Friday. I started a new challenge for myself. I'm trying really hard throughout the month of June to catch myself whenever I'm focusing on something that has a negative aspect to it, or thinking about it, or even worse, saying it. And so I'm trying to stop myself. And the routine I'm saying is, whoops, stop. And I literally say this out loud. Stop. I want a better feeling thought than that. And at the very least...
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And at the very least, it stops me from, being on that track. It kind of disrupts it, throws me, derails it, so to speak. And then sometimes I actually get some inspiration, like, go here instead. And I know on Friday, for instance, there were like 12.5 times where I had to do that. Saturday wasn't quite so much, but just because I wasn't doing a whole lot. But at least 6 times yesterday, and another 6 times today at least. So it happens a lot, but I figure if I can keep doing that for a month and just, constantly be on top of it in terms of, nope, stay away from that, go over to it. I need a better one. Give me a better feeling thought than that. I need something better than that.
Yes.
Yes. If I can do that for a month, I'm going to be really interested to see what the result is. I think it's going to be really good, but I just don't know exactly what it will be.
That sounds good. Yeah.
It does,
definitely.
doesn't it? So anyway, like I said, we are on example 10, entitled "I Am a Teenager." And unlike some of the other passages of this book, or even of the other books, this is not so much of a dialogue as it is. They lay out what a representative concern is, and then Abraham answers it. So there's no actual people here. You have to kind of pretend that there are. So we'll pretend there's a person asking the question, then we'll say, here's where Abraham's answer is. So this particular person is saying, I'm still in high school. I live at home with my parents, and I think I'm a pretty normal kid. My grades are okay, and even though I actually hate school, I have lots of things that I'm interested in and have a couple of really good friends. My parents scrutinize everything I do to the point that they're driving me crazy. I have to get their permission to do every single thing I do, and they always act like I'm doing something wrong or planning on doing something wrong, and so I not only never feel good when I'm with them, but I actually dread going home. I wish I could just leave home now and live on my own and do what I want to do. But I know that I should finish school and figure out how to support myself before I do anything like that. I wish my parents would just leave me alone. I feel guilty half the time and I'm not doing anything wrong. What's up with them anyway? Why don't they just live their lives and let me live mine? Is there anybody who has not experienced that as a kid? I kind of doubt it. So, hypothetical kid, we know exactly how you feel. And Abraham replies, we could ask you to stand in the shoes of your parents and try to understand their perspective a little bit, and you might get some of the answers to your questions. But you cannot ever really see through someone else's eyes, and trying to see from the perspective of another is not a good idea anyway, for it only serves to add more confusion to the vibrations within you. Of course, others often do have good ideas that you may want to integrate into your own creative process, but it is much easier to personally sort out the details of life one by one, including the aspects that match your overall intentions, rather than trying, in one fell swoop, to just live life the way someone else does. That, in a very few words, is what goes wrong with most parent-child relationships. Your parents usually believe that they are much older and wiser because of the life experiences they have lived, and they want you to benefit from the wisdom that they have accumulated over time. Parents are often the first ones to forget that you are the creator of your life experience. Because you and your well-being have been important to them from the time of your birth, they often see you and your life as their creation. And that is where you run into trouble. Truer words were never spoken.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's not that the parents are ill-meaning. They're well-meaning. That's what makes it so difficult. You know, the parents do care. The ones who are, you know, trying to make their child's lives better, they care. They just don't understand how they're interfering and how that interference is actually holding their kids back. I've learned that personally just from having founded that alternative school that I told you about. It's not that the parents don't care. It's not that they aren't even listening. They are. There's something about being a parent that leads people to feel like that they are responsible for their children to be certain kinds of adults. You know, a certain kind that fits the mold that the parent has in mind. It's like it's the manual that comes with being a mom or a dad.
Well, you know, you're right. I think they do, most parents anyway, I think they do think that they're doing the right thing, and that if they, you know, are on their kid and really trying to make sure they do things a certain way, that's the best thing, but it isn't always.
And I think it's also true, I mean, there's no real black and white here. It's also true that many parents do some of it well. Many parents are very good in some ways at letting their kids be, at letting them follow their own interests, at letting them, maybe not 100%, but to some degree they are able to do that. And to the extent that they're able to do that, that's a good thing. So, I mean, we should also recognize for all the things that parents have to go through, you know, very many of them, for the most part, do the best they can to let go. Because I think most parents understand eventually you have to let go, and the sooner the better in some cases. But nevertheless, they understand that. So it's not like there's a clear black or clear white here. There's a lot of gray area. But nevertheless, I think it is true that parents do often forget, just like it says here. They forget that this is the life of the kid. And it's the kid who is the creator of their own life experience, not the parent. The parent doesn't create the life experience. So continuing in the book, did you have anything you wanted to say on it? I mean, I've been kind of dominating the conversation here.
No, that is true. I do think most parents think they are doing the, quote, right thing, and they're doing the best that they know, regardless if it really is the best for the kid.
Yeah, I think so. So continuing, it says, through the living of their lives and the watching of yours, they have launched their own desires relative to your well-being and your life. And then they often feel a need to control your behavior so that it matches the vision that they have created of you. If we were visiting with them right now, we would encourage them not to do that, and we would guide them back into their own personal vibrational alignment. But we are not addressing your parents right now. Really? Sure sound like they were.
I think they kind of were.
I think they kind of were too, yeah. But it does kind of reiterate, that last paragraph does kind of reiterate, you know, they feel a need, this is what it said, they feel a need to control your behavior so that it matches the vision that they have created of you. That is what parents do. And it's all well-meaning, but it's not always a good idea. So continuing, it says, in the same way that we would want your parents to understand that it is not the job of you, their child, to modify your behavior in order to please them, we are saying to you that you must not ask your parents to modify their behavior in order to please you. Now, that's a thought that almost never comes to a teenager, so that's a good one.
Never. I don't think so, yeah.
We know that it feels to you as if it is their behavior that is causing your discomfort. But if you can come to the realization that you do have options about their behavior, Then and only then will you discover a sense of freedom right where you stand. But if you believe that they need to change, which they are not likely to do, before you can feel better, then you truly feel trapped. And so the feeling of wanting to run away from it all is certainly understandable. As you begin to reach for more downstream thoughts, you are going to come into alignment with the expansive being that your life has caused you to become. And as that alignment occurs, you will be clear, confident, eager, and happy. These are all things that your parents desire for you. Interesting point. And as you offer those attitudes in greater frequency, your parents will begin to feel better, and they will back off. Well, there's an interesting thing right there. Is that something? Have you ever actually counseled a teenager to do exactly that?
No. The youngest person that I've coached was 18, and they were already out of the house, and they had a good relationship with their parents. So I didn't have to go there with them.
I can't say I've ever had a conversation with a kid where that particular approach came up at all. Mm-hmm. So I think it's safe to say this is not something that gets discussed very often from this perspective.
Sometimes I think, too, I guess it depends on the teenager. I don't know if they would get it, what we're talking about now. I really don't.
Why do you say that?
Because some teenagers are just so, they do have that, like, they're just so focused on they're right. They want to be right.
Mm-hmm.
You know how Abraham always says, do you want to be right or feel good? And, of course, the answer is feel good. But I don't know. I just think some teenagers wouldn't have the maturity to really understand all this.
Well, there's also the other Abraham phrase.
Some would and some wouldn't. I think it would just depend on the person.
Sure. Oh, yeah. There are going to be differences. But there's also the other Abraham phrase. You can't get it wrong and you'll never get it done. And this past week, I reversed all that to make it all positives. So you're always right and the path goes on forever. That's
Wait,
really...
Say that again? You're always right.
You're always right and the road goes on forever.
Yeah.
That's basically saying the same thing, but in positive terms. Well, you're always right. That's pretty reassuring to a kid who wants to be right. You're always right. You can't get it wrong. So that's a great message for a kid who wants to be right all the time.
If they understood where you're coming from.
Well, it at least raises a question in their minds, because in their minds perhaps they're thinking, well, I'm not always right, or people tell me I'm not always right, or whatever. So now there's at least a basis for a conversation. But I'm sure it's going to pique the interest, because they'd want to know how it is that I'm always right. Certainly, I can't imagine there are going to be too many kids who are going to say, well, I would much rather argue that I'm wrong.
That is true.
So it's going to appeal on a certain level, I think. And, yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously, it all comes down to feeling. So it's important to want to feel good. But I think it also can be argued that you can get past the I need to be right thing by pointing out you're always right. Your decisions are always right. Now, you may make a decision that produces a result that you didn't really have in mind, that didn't produce the result you were looking for, because your focus was not vibrationally attuned to what you actually had in mind that you wanted to have happen. But that doesn't mean that your path wasn't right. It's kind of like saying, if you want to go from New York to Los Angeles, you're going to use a GPS, and you climb into your car, and you start driving east, your GPS is going to say, make a legal U-turn. So, did you do it wrong? No, you did it right. You followed the GPS. Yeah, but I went the wrong direction. Well, briefly, but you didn't keep going the wrong direction. Otherwise, you would have driven off, the coast. No, you recognized, the GPS helped you recognize that you needed to go the other direction, so you made the right decision. You turned around. And that really is it. That's the thing that, you're right. I mean, there would be a little bit of resistance to that, because that is not what they're used to hearing, but it would be a completely different message from what they're used to, and it would basically bring to the fore the idea, it isn't so much whether I do a particular thing wrong. What really matters is, am I heading in my overall right direction? And as long as I'm taking steps that feel good to me, then I am. So I can relax about that kind of thing. That's a message that a teenager needs to hear. That's a message most adults need to hear. Right? I mean, how often do you get somebody who comes in for coaching who is essentially, they start off the conversation talking about all the things that are going wrong in their lives?
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's
you know,
right.
Is there anybody who needs more than that to know that everything they're doing is right? You're getting it right, and the path goes on forever. So relax. And let go of the oars.
Let go of the oars. That's right.
So let's see. I absolutely lost my place. Do you know where we are?
Yeah, page 111 and the second paragraph.
Oh, there we go. Now you may say, but I'm doing all the work. I'm working to adjust my thoughts so that I'm coming into alignment. So I'm feeling better. So I'm behaving in a way that is more pleasing to my parents. And all they are doing is enjoying my changed personality. What about them doing something to make me feel better? It does sound like something not just a kid would say. I can imagine adults saying that too. Again, if we were visiting with them, we would guide them toward their own alignment, and we would be reminding them that they really have no control over your behavior. But we want you to understand that when you believe someone else must do something different so that you can feel better, you are truly at a disadvantage. For you have no control over what they do. When you understand that the way you feel has only to do with the alignment of your own thought energy, and you work to bring yourself into alignment independent of anyone else's behavior, now you are empowered. Now you are really free. And that just points so nicely to how all of us need the reminder periodically that it is not up to somebody else to make us feel better. As a matter of fact, looking that way is a way of disempowering ourselves, taking the power away from ourselves, because now we're completely dependent on what somebody else decides to do. Whereas if we decide that how we're going to feel is going to be based on whether or not we get into alignment with ourselves, whether or not we find that good feeling place, which we can all find, then now we're empowered. Now we aren't dependent upon somebody else's change in behavior. We're only dependent upon our own.
But what about the kid that drives a parent crazy?
Well, right now they're talking to the parent, to the kid. They're not talking to the parent. I mean, the kid who drives the parent crazy, that's the parent raising the problem, because the kid's not going to raise that one. The kid's not going to say, I drive my parent crazy. You don't get that. That's not what a kid's going to say. That's like expecting the parent to say, I'm really not doing a good job with my kid. I'm just so mean to them. That's just not the way the conversation's going to go.
Well, the parents on the same thing, though. They also have to get into alignment.
Well, they do. They do. Yes.
It works both ways. It's interesting.
It does. Yes. Well, it's true for anybody, really. Actually, with any of the examples that we're reading in this book, you could just remove all the stuff they're saying and replace it with get into alignment, and you'd be equally correct.
Yes.
Right?
That is true.
That's the way it is. Okay. So, let's see, where were we? Did I get through that paragraph?
So we do not encourage.
Yeah.
So we do not encourage.
Right. So we do not encourage trying too hard to understand another's point of view. Interesting. We do not encourage trying too hard to understand another's point of view. You don't hear that one very often.
Yeah. No, you don't.
I mean, you hear a lot about understanding the other person's point of view. And actually, I spent a large portion of my life understanding the other person's point of view. And I can say there's some value to it. Mm-hmm. But they have a slightly different point here. So let's find out what it is. Why don't they want us to try too hard to understand another's point of view, even though that sometimes does soothe you? It's because in many ways our attempt at soothing you is not so different from their changing their behavior to please you. And while most people think this is what they really want, it is our desire that you come to understand that under all conditions, that is counterproductive. Okay. If you become dependent upon being able to solicit improved behavior from others in order to make yourself feel better, you are really going about life the hard way. Well, that's true. That's true. That much I can say is definitely true.
Yes. Yes.
It is limiting at best and debilitating at worst. When you understand that you can control the way you feel because you can control the downstream direction of your own thoughts, now you are continually in alignment. Now you consistently feel good. You come back into your own power. Your power of influence is tremendous and you thrive all around. We want to also add that controlling your own direction of thought, which improves the way you feel, is relatively easy, while getting someone else to change their behavior is extremely difficult, if not impossible. So I guess when they said don't try to understand somebody else's point of view too hard, what they really mean is don't try to understand somebody's point of view for the purpose of trying to get them to change their point of view or to change the way they're dealing with you.
Yeah.
Is that the way you read it?
Yes. Yeah, because it's well, it said it's extremely difficult, if not impossible. So
yeah, to get them to change.
I think a lot of parents, that's what they do try to do.
Oh, sure, yeah, and vice versa. I did that with my parents.
Absolutely.
I tried to understand their viewpoint for with the hope that somehow that would give me leverage.
Mm-hmm. Did it work?
Not terribly well for the most part. I mean, to a certain extent. I mean, every kid learns some small amount, or maybe even a larger amount, to manipulate their parents, right? To do certain things or say certain things that elicit a desired response. I think all kids learn that to some extent. How successful is that? Well, it can vary a bit from case to case, depending on how much you got your parent wrapped around your finger. But in the long run, I don't think it's really much helpful either way, regardless of whether you succeed with it. Because even if you succeed in wrapping them around your finger, that usually leads to other detrimental results. So, yeah. That's the way I see it. Is that similar to you, different?
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Abraham goes on saying, we are going to describe some situations that might occur and your subsequent responses to them. Then we will show you how to make an effort at turning your thoughts more downstream. Okay, so we're going to look at a little teenage angst here. You have announced to your parents that you are planning to go somewhere with one of your friends. You know that ultimately your parents will not stop you from going, but you are met with their usual disagreeable sarcasm, not only about your choice of friends, but about your choice of activity. And you think, how do you know what's of value for me? How would you know what's fun for me? I don't think you guys know what's fun. I'm not sure you've ever had fun. Now, while these thoughts are understandable given the attitude your parents have projected at you, they are still all upstream thoughts. You don't understand my life. You don't give my friends a chance. I don't see you making any effort to understand. Understandable, but still upstream. Do not ask your parents to change so that you can feel better. Try to make yourself feel better on your own. Here's some examples of that. I don't need you to like my friend in order for me to like him. Through my own experience, I've shown myself that he's a good friend. At least you're not actually trying to control my experience. And once I leave and meet my friend, I'll begin to have a good time. I guess I can understand that your motives are good and that you do want what's best for me. Okay, so you're now feeling better.
Well, that would be a miracle if a teenager could really go from there to there, but I guess it's possible.
Well, it's theoretically true.
Theoretically, yeah.
But you're right. Practically, that's probably not going to happen that quickly. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to outline what the teenager would be recommended to try to do, not so much what they're going to predict that the teenager is going to do.
Yeah.
And then they give another example of an upstream thought, but I don't think that you have any way of really knowing what's best for me. That's the upstream. And then they give some more downstream thoughts. But I can't blame you for trying. I'm still going to go. You're not going to try to stop me. Things could be a lot worse. I guess I don't have it so bad. So basically playing the game of what's upstream, what's downstream. In this process, nothing has really changed in the sense that your parents are still giving you a hard time, and you are still going out in spite of their subtle protest. But because of your effort to try to turn downstream, your vibrations are in a better place than usual. And so as you go out with your friends, you do not feel the usual rebellious feelings surging through you. You feel lighter and freer, and your fun with your friends gets off to a better start. This time you make no negative comments whatsoever to your friend. You do not look back at the house or home or parents from which you have come. You just step into your current experience with a lighter step, and you have a better time than usual. And so, when the night out is over and you are heading home, you do not dread your return as much as before. I wonder what would have happened if I had tried that when I was a kid. I mean, I certainly didn't know to try it. The thought never occurred to me. But I wonder what would have happened. I mean, did you ever try? You never tried anything like that, did you?
Would you have even understood that? That's the thing. Like, I don't know as a teenager if I would have understood.
I think it would have needed more explanation.
The depth that they're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the way they've explained it in this section doesn't really explain it enough, I don't think. But if I understood it through enough explanation, I mean, I certainly could have understood it if I had just had enough to work with. I mean, if you read part 1, if we assume that the teenager read part 1, yeah. If I had read part 1, I think I could have understood it. I'm not sure I would have bought into it, but I think I would have understood it.
Yeah, it's more possible, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I think whether or not I would actually try it would be what would come before I actually bought into it. I probably would have tried it first, maybe with like a bit of a dismay, skepticism, and I'm not so sure this is really going to work, but what the hell, I'll try it, that kind of a thing. And so I probably wouldn't have tried it real well either. But nevertheless, if I had known to try this and had actually tried it, yeah, I think I could have understood it, and I think that I could have been able to evaluate the results too. I mean, let's be honest. It's not like kids are dumb. In fact, kids are really smarter in most cases than their parents are. Not because their parents are really dumb, but just because generationally, each generation tends to be smarter than the last. And there are a number of authors that have written about this. The effect, it's almost as if there is a cumulative library that gets added to generationally. So each generation gets the previous library plus some more. You know what I mean? And that's where the cumulative knowledge just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So, yeah, I think kids could understand it, especially today. Could I have understood it back when I was a kid? Yeah, I think I could have. But I would say kids today have a better chance of it, just because they have more knowledge now than I had. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, if it was explained in more detail, like you said, they knew about part 1 and they understood the basics of it all, I think it's possible.
To summarize, it says, it is possible that your vibration has changed so much that your aligned energy affected your parents. That actually would have been, if they had said that at the beginning, that probably would have been enough incentive for me to give it a shot.
You're right.
It says, you may find them both asleep in bed rather than propped up in the living room waiting up for you. I never had that experience. I never had the experience of my parents, my dad waiting for me, tapping his foot, wondering when I was going to come in the door and then give me a good talking to. That was
that's because you were the perfect teenager. There was
right. No, actually, I have to give my parents credit in that case, because they were pretty much willing to trust me and just let me be me in that regard, for sure. And that may not be what most people's experience was, but it was mine. So hats off to my mom and dad. I mean, was it your experience? Did you have your parents waiting for you when you got home?
No, not like that. No. But first of all, I was pretty good, and they knew that they could trust me, that kind of thing. So maybe if I was a problem child and they felt they had to do that, but that wasn't my experience. So if I was supposed to be home at a certain time, I was home. So, but yeah, I could see though if you do have a child who is more difficult, and you say I'll be home by X time, and sometimes they're not, then I could see a parent more likely to do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it necessarily a difficult child. I would call it a difficult relationship, because a difficult child suggests that the child is the problem, and that's not necessarily true. I mean, as they were describing earlier, it can be either way. The parent can be the problem, because the parent just doesn't know how to let go enough to let the child live their life and do their own attracting. They want to try to attract for them.
Right. Yeah, it could be either way.
It could be either one. Yeah.
each situation, yeah.
Or it could be that the parents are very good at letting go, and so are the kids, and it's not even an issue in the first place. That's the hard part with these hypotheticals. You never really know because it's different.
Yeah.
Everybody's situation is different. It's not like there's
the idea is good. You know, the idea of what they're saying is really good.
Oh yeah.
You know, that would be great if it, you know, if a child would need this, would find it, and it worked. I mean, the idea is very good.
Yeah.
I like the sound of it.
I do too. We have about 10 minutes left. The next section is example 11. It's not all that long. Shall we try to go for it?
Well, wait, you didn't finish that last paragraph, because you said, it is possible that your vibration has changed so much that your aligned energy affected your parents. You may find them both asleep in bed rather than
propped
up in the living room waiting up for you.
And whether you see any obvious evidential change right now or not, you did feel better, and that indicates change, and that is enough. Now, that would be a tough one for a kid. Feeling better, indicating change. That's a tough one for an adult. It was a tough one for me as an adult.
Yeah, because especially from a kid, like, that may not be enough, even though it's true, in their minds, that may not be enough for them to feel that this quote worked, you know?
Although I have to say, maybe today, I don't know. Maybe actually kids today would be able to accept that better. I'm thinking about kids in my family, in my extended family. And I think kids are a little bit more attuned to the power of feeling good. Not that they have a clear understanding of LOA, just that, you know, just from general conversation I remember having with my nephews, my nieces, there's more attunement there, I think, than what we had. I think it just shows how generationally things are improving.
Yeah. So how many nieces and nephews?
I have 3 nephews and 2 nieces.
Oh, okay.
So not very large family.
They're all good kids?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in fact, one of my nieces, I have one niece only on my side of the family. The other 4 are on Louise's side of the family. And the niece on my side of the family is getting married in September. So it's an exciting year. Yeah, she's getting married actually, I believe, 3 days after our own wedding anniversary. So it's going to be an interesting time.
Is it going to be local, or do you have to travel somewhere? Or?
It'll be in Virginia, so yeah, we'll be traveling.
Oh, that's pretty far, but not. I mean, it's doable.
Yeah. It's doable.
Are you driving?
I don't know what we're doing yet. Well, I don't think we figured that out yet. We may fly down. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I think flying might be. I mean, unless you really like driving. I mean, some people do. They don't care.
I've done a lot of driving. That's not a problem for me. But that's a long trip. I mean, it's the southernmost area of Virginia. It's Virginia Beach, right near the North Carolina border. So it's a fairly long drive. We're probably talking 14, 15 hours, something like that. You know, from where we are in Connecticut. So
now, you're the kind, if you did, you would leave really early and try to do it all in one day.
Oh, I was always a one-day person. Yeah. Yes. And that's a pretty rough drive, especially, you know, I'm not like a spring chicken anymore, so 15 hours in a car is a long time right now. So, yeah, there's a good chance I think we'll fly down. I wouldn't be surprised if we fly.
Yeah.
But, we're looking forward to it.
Probably easier.
I think it will be, yeah. Yeah. But to answer your question, I mean, I can't speak for either my nieces or my nephews because I never see enough of them, you know, regularly to be able to tell you, you know, for sure anyway. But just in my conversations with them, I think they are fairly responsive. To a certain degree, each of them has at least some willingness to hear it. I would say the girls are a little bit more responsive than the boys are.
Right.
But, you know, that's sort of par for the course. That's one thing that I've noticed with law of attraction in general. I would say probably 80% of the population is female, of the law of attraction population. That's my take. I don't know. What do you think? Am I off?
Oh, wow. I never thought about that before.
I mean,
I don't know. I mean, when I went to, and this isn't, of course, the only example, but when I went to the Abraham Hicks seminar, whatever you want to call it, I would say there was 50-50.
It really was. Okay.
Like half men, half women, but you know, that was just one thing.
Right. Well, because the one that we went to about a month ago was about 80-20. It was overwhelmingly
was.
female. Yeah, it was overwhelmingly female. And in the groups online that talk about law of attraction, overwhelmingly female. Huge numbers of female compared to male. Yeah.
I wonder why do you think that is?
I don't know. I mean, I'm hesitant to even offer an opinion on it because anything that I say sounds sexist at that point. And I don't really want to come off as sexist. I can't say I know. I can't say I honestly know. I mean,
do you think women are just more open to these things overall, or they have less resistance, or not, or?
Well, the most I can say is based on what I've seen, more women are receptive to it than men are. But why? I can't really say. I mean, it may have something to do with the fact that we men are socialized in ways that historically have separated us from our feelings, and true application of law of attraction is all about connecting to feeling. But it's not like men are the only ones who are separate. Women, there are often women who have similar problems of being disconnected from their own feelings. So it's not like it's a clear rule of thumb, you know. So I can't say I know for sure. I mean, do you have a theory?
Yeah, but I mean, that may be true. I mean, I'm thinking about, like, overall, I would say I do have more female clients than men clients.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe there is something about that, or maybe women are more open, or like you said, maybe they're more connected to their feelings because of how men aren't supposed to be into all this kind of thing, or where I don't know where that came from, but somehow some people do think that. I don't know, but that could be.
Well, I mean, historically, I think where it came from was the typical social role for males and social role for females, up until about 30, 40 years ago, because there were very definite roles.
The men were what?
The men were the breadwinners. The women were the homemakers. It was a man's world. Women were basically second-class citizens, all that kind of stuff. And out of that mash of craziness, one of the things that emerged was boys were taught, boys don't cry. That was something that had pretty much died out by the time I was a teenager. But I remember that from being a little kid. I remember hearing that phrase.
Wow.
Big boys don't cry.
Yeah.
In fact, there was a song by that name. Big boys don't cry.
There is, yes.
Right?
Yes. But I will say, though, that the men that I've coached have been just as receptive as the women. So
that's good.
I don't know. Maybe it's just kind of that thing that you said, that some men are just socialized where it's not manly to be into something like this, or I don't know. I mean, I know for myself.
For myself, I definitely did experience disconnect based on socialization. I mean, I can definitely point to aspects of my life where I knew that I was trained to ignore my feelings. Just not through anything that any particular person taught me. You will, not pay attention to your feelings, but just because that was the way it felt. I mean, it was a very palpable thing. Boys were expected to behave one way. Girls were expected to behave another way. And I think that's largely disappeared, but I think it did exist, and I know it affected me until I learned, where my power came from.
Yeah. Or maybe just, I don't know, maybe more women just hear about it. I don't know.
I don't know.
Possible.
Well, we'll have to save it for next week.
Are more women online, like, searching around than men, or who knows? I don't know.
I can't tell you that. I don't know. All I know is we'll have to save it for next time.
It's interesting.
It is, but we're out of time, so we can't really think about it a whole lot more. Because the music's going to start in about 5 seconds. But, Dave, it's been a pleasure. And before we go...
go ahead.
I
got to say, lifecoachdavid.com if anyone's interested in coaching. And that's just, I wanted to get that in there.
There you go. Dave, it's been a pleasure. Talk to you next week.
Okay, well...
We'll see you all next time as well here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.